The content of this program is to provide nutritional education only. This program is not meant to take the place of your primary care physician. The FDA requires us to let you know that our products are not meant to treat, prevent, diagnose, or cure any diseases. As an empowered individual, you have options available. We are honored to have one of the founding fathers of epigenetics here to guide us with the best options to obtain or maintain optimal health, Dr. Joel Wallach. Welcome to Daily with Doc and Becca. Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I am so excited to have all of you here with us today. My name is Becca Dukes, and you are tuning into Daily with Doc. Now, as the hostess of this program, each and every day, we have this goal of making sure that we're bringing empowering information. So if you are looking for wellness, if you are looking for some financial, well, it could be wellness and health and finances and all areas of life. So that's what we're here. That's what we're all about, is making sure that we're bringing empowering information that just meets people where they're at. And I love the fact that we are able to do that. Now, with this, we bring you great news, especially if you have been told that you have a genetic condition. I was told I had a few of them. Well, fortunately today, I don't have any of them. And that's my own personal story. And I know everybody is different, but through what you are going to be hearing today and the impact that others are making in their daily life, in what they do as a profession, as a hobby, everything. It's amazing what your body can do when it's given the right stuff. Now, the doc that's part of Daily with Doc is Dr. Joel Wallach. Dr. Wallach is a lifetime learner. He is a researcher. He's a conservationist that has worked on some of the biggest wildlife conservation projects, and taking that information has applied it into the human world, where he also became a naturopathic physician. Not only did he become a naturopathic physician, or prior to actually, he was teaching nutrition classes at a naturopathic college. So I think he is absolutely the most perfect person, because there's a lot of doctors out there that are pushing this supplement, that supplement, different things without looking at the whole picture. And that's what Dr. Wallach does. He looks at the whole picture. And looking at the whole picture, he has been able to help formulate some nutritional products that address the body as a whole. So Dr. Wallach, you have made such an impact on so many people that we have another guest here with us today, Yvonne Ray, who is a practitioner that uses microcurrent. And I've actually experienced this, folks. It's pretty cool. In incorporating the nutrition, Dr. Wallach, that you have formulated and brought to the table through the company Longevity. So, Dr. Wallach, will you please, I know you have some questions for Yvonne. I want to hear the questions, and I especially want to hear the answers. So, Dr. Wallach, welcome to Daily with Doc.
Okay, thank you so much, Becca. Great opening as usual. And Yvonne, are you there?
Hey, Doc, so good to see you again. Yes, I'm here.
Okay, we appreciate all the great things you do. And just for our listening audience, I'm going to ask you a few questions, which will kind of let them understand you a little bit. And so let's see here. Share with us what you did before finding longevity. What was it you were doing before you found longevity?
Well, besides being a wife, a mom, a Jesus freak, former military, worked in the medical and the dental field,
What branch of the
everywhere.
service were you in?
The Navy, and I also worked with the Marines out at Camp Lejeune. And when I
Thank
was
you for your
in,
service. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
thank you, Colonel, for yours. And I worked everywhere, in the OR, even, down to assisting in autopsies. And I got to tell you, that's where I found my love of the sciences. Also, I got to be on the Navy ski team. Today, I own a company called For Better U2 Wellness, and it's been my journey, basically, that started it using nutrition, and then I brought in microcurrent, and I currently work at 2 different clinics here in the Sacramento area.
Okay, well, that's a beautiful story. We cannot thank you enough for your service, and we cannot thank you enough for all the good things that you're bringing to humanity. And so what was it that was really attractive to you about longevity?
Well, so what happened was I started having health challenges of my own. And when no one could answer why, and it was literally just one pill after another, no real, what's the root cause? I actually started looking outside of the very system that I was working in.
Well, it's typical of the medical system. They treat symptoms as opposed to getting down to the root cause.
Yes. And, I remember people coming in and saying things like, well, I'm going to go try, nutrition, or I'm going to try these other things, which when I was in the medical system, I truly, truly believed that if any of that stuff worked, we'd be doing it right here. I worked at some of the largest naval hospitals, not realizing that it was a closed system. But that actually led me, I started researching compounds. First, it was essential oils. And, while they definitely helped me medicinally, they weren't always getting to the root compound. And from there, I actually heard about this research that one of my teachers told me about this book that was in the Smithsonian. And I tried to find that book. I'll tell you what, the average cost online was between, at that time, like $9,000 to $25,000. I was like, what? And then our nurse found one of those copies at UC Davis Medical School here, just, down the street from Sacramento. So, eventually at some point, I actually was able to purchase that book. It was about the price of a small car, but in it, I found things that I would have never expected. I mean, I started looking at the nutrition and the diets that these mammals, that they were being given, the diseases of the digestive system, the circulatory system, gastritis, the nervous systems of these mammals. And Doc, I'm telling you, I saw all of my symptoms. And I got to tell you, it started there. And literally, I also learned to change from synthetic supplements, because, I thought I was doing the right thing, but I was taking a lot of synthetic supplements. And then I started to learn about food or whole food supplements. And it's funny because I was using those daily. And honestly, when I changed to whole food nutrition, that was nutrition in action. I mean, my lab started improving. I started improving. Now, over probably the next, 12 or so months, I was definitely improving. But not everything was going away. And like hyperthyroid hormone, again, back to digestive calcium deposit issues. And I remember thinking to myself, and people would say, yeah, welcome to 50, welcome to 40, right? And I definitely thought I was making, the right choices with protein bars and oatmeal and whole grain.
Oh, bingo, 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 bingo.
Yeah, and of course we learned, right, that it creates a biofilm. It kills good bacteria. It's an inflammatory, all of these things. And of course, obviously the worst, now that I understand it, is it blocks absorption.
Yes, it actually causes irritable bowel syndrome, Crohn's disease, celiac disease, appendicitis, and so many other things secondarily to those things, because you can't absorb when you have those problems.
That was me.
Oatmeal is one of your biggest enemies.
Yeah.
Okay. Oatmeal has probably killed more people in all the wars that human beings have been involved in since the beginning of time. Okay. And, it was one of those things where, every doctor was telling grandma and grandpa, because it wouldn't help them have a bowel movement. Well, after a couple of months, they had to take medication to have a bowel movement. They were so constipated.
Yep. Yeah, I had some family members, in my family, this is going to sound awful, but they went 7, sometimes 10 days without having a bowel movement. And that alone, creates its own mess.
That's true, because you need nutrition every minute of every hour of every day. Okay. And it's one of those things where the bad times really started at 3:00 in the afternoon, Monday, September 4th, 1882, on Pearl Street in New York City, in the bluff overlooking the construction of Brooklyn Bridge. And you know what happened then?
Yep, the lights went on.
The lights went on. Okay. And this book, Hell's Kitchen, tells the transition. Oh, thank you, Becca. This book, Hell's Kitchen, shares the transition with you, going from wood and coal as fuel, and we were using the wood ashes and coal ashes, which are 95 to 98% minerals and 2 or 3% carbon, okay, as fertilizer in our gardens. And so the carrots and the tomatoes and the onions and bell peppers and corn and stuff would suck up all those minerals, and people ate it, and they got those minerals that way. And then when we went to electricity, how many wood ashes and coal ashes are there after 3,000 years of using them? How many wood ashes and coal ashes are there when we changed to electricity?
Zero.
Okay.
And of course, we started damming up the floodplains, right?
There you go. That's one of my favorites.
Yes.
The hydroelectric, damming up the floodplains. And so there was no annual renewal of the minerals that the previous year's crops had sucked up out of the soil, because now there was no floods and the water would recede and they'd plow in all the silt back in the soil. But that went away when they came up with all these hydroelectric dams. Everybody's running up and down cheering, yay, no more floods, no more floods. And then they get all these diseases because there was no more silt. And so it was really a downward spiral, really seriously, since the advent of electricity. And of course, doctors made the terrible mistake of saying, just eat well, you get everything you need. Just eat well, you get everything you need. Just eat well, you get everything you need. And that may have been true in certain areas, because nutritional minerals don't occur in a uniform blanket around the crust of the earth. They occur in veins like gold and silver. So some areas had lots of minerals, some areas had a few, and it was variable. We said, well, boy, they just don't have any diabetes in that county.
Yeah.
Okay, it wasn't genetics, it was minerals.
Well, and for that to be brought all together the way that, you talk about it. And of course, so much, all of it is factual. We can have our own opinions, but we cannot have our own facts. And I actually was learning about these facts before I ever actually even knew about you.
There we go. Epigenetics. That's the average person's affordable way to get all the information that was in my books that were selling for $25,000 each. It's in the Smithsonian Institute as a national treasure. I'm very, very proud of that. But I'm equally as proud of this book, Epigenetics, because the subtitle says it all. Okay. Epigenetics, the death of the genetic theory of disease transmission. And I'm so proud to have been one of the co-founders and fathers of the science. And it's one of those things where obviously you're a very clever person, because you realized the importance of this and you incorporated it into your practice.
Well, I got to tell you, some of it drives my family nuts. I'm the one, when I was younger that read the VCR manual. I had to follow everything. And there was just, I would learn about several nutrients, but I just kept, it was impressing upon me, well, what about the others? And I'm just very, very grateful about, the research that you have done. And obviously, being a Nobel Prize nominee, it's out there for the world to see if they just begin to look. And, I had to look away from the conventional educational places that I had been listening to.
Mm-hmm. Well, we can't thank you enough. And of course, on the back of the book, Epigenetics, 2011, I received the Klaus Schwartz Award for all those things you're talking about.
Yeah.
Okay. In 2015, I actually got an award from the United Nations. It was a Lifetime Achievement Award from the United Nations.
Wow.
This is their office in New York City, where I got, they presented that to me. It was a big news release, a big hoo-ha and everything like that. And the important thing is, additionally, one of my great attorneys, Jonathan Emord, he and I sued the FDA, Food and Drug Administration, 8 times on that one subject in federal court. And we sued them more times than that, but just on that one subject, 8 times in federal court to get these nutrients into baby formulas, because baby formulas, doctors were not allowing nutrients to be put in Enfamil and Similac and things like that. And all these baby diseases were just simple nutritional deficiencies because there was nothing in the baby formulas. So we won those lawsuits. We got them, and in 90 days, we got rid of cystic fibrosis.
Yeah.
We got rid of muscular dystrophy, and we got rid of sudden death syndrome. And the thing that freaked me out, you know what doctors were saying caused sudden death syndrome?
Yeah.
They were saying the mothers were laying on the babies and suffocating. They were saying that for years and years and years and years and years. It was just a simple nutritional deficiency. And once the baby started getting the nutrients in the baby formulas, because we sued them to get it put in there, and sure enough, suddenly now SID, sudden death syndrome, disappeared.
Well, Doc, I got to tell you, I remember, my son was born in 97, and everybody was right in the middle of telling you, oh, baby goes on the back, no, baby goes on the front, no, baby this, no, and it was so disconcerting as a brand new mother, to know what to do best with my child, and to later on learn some of this stuff. I just I can't even begin to imagine, had something happen, but thank you for that. And then I understand that months later, there's reports of this SIDS just disappearing, right?
Yeah, and they're freaking out. Where'd it go? No, instead of 300 deaths a day from SIDS in the United States, it went to 1 a year.
Did they ever associate that with these, the ingredients list being changed on the labels? Did they ever?
They didn't, but we've made them understand it is.
Yes.
This book here,
yeah,
this came out. It's only out about like 2-3 weeks. Okay. It covers 75 years from when I started as a kid, 9 years old, and figured it out when I was 9, wow, through just a couple of months ago or a year or so ago. And the beautiful thing about this book is there was a committee of doctors and lawyers who did a first edition some years ago, and this is the second edition. Okay. And in here, things, people like Pat Boone wrote the foreword. Pat Boone wrote the foreword and tells his experiences with Andy Young and how he was going to have a double knee replacement. The ambassador to the United Nations, the mayor of Atlanta, he's going to have a double knee replacement. And he got on our program. We rebuilt his knees. He never had to have that. And then,
you can put your book down now. I got mine up.
Okay. And then also, let's see here, Danny Glover. He tells about his story. Okay. And then we have so many others. Theo Ratliff, great basketball player. His career was over when he was 24 years old because he had a fracture of his wrist. He had bone-to-bone arthritis in his knees, and he lost his contract for $3 million and all that kind of stuff. We rebuilt him, okay, and actually came out with the first healthy bone and joint pack for him. Okay. And he went back and he played for 11 years professional basketball, made $100 million based on our formula. So do you think he lectures all over the place on telling the story? And that's why his picture is on all of our rebound products. Okay. Theo Ratliff. And we have the sticks, we have the canister, we have the cans. And then we also have Evander Holyfield. Most people don't know that story, but Evander, you know who Evander Holyfield is?
I do.
Okay. Yeah, exactly. Heavyweight champion. He lost his heavyweight championship to Michael Moore because he had a heart attack in between the 11th and the final round of his defense of his championship. And he almost died. And so we built the Healthy Brain and Heart Pack for him. He took it for 9 months, and he then went back and went after, let's see here, Mike Tyson, who had gotten the championship from Michael Moore. And in the 6th round, the referees had to jump in there and separate him because Evander Holyfield was just about to kill Mike Tyson. I mean, Tyson's arms were down, and he was just punching away as hard as he could. And so he stopped the fight, and he got his title back. Now, who comes back and wins a heavyweight title championship boxing match from a Mike Tyson? Okay, after they have a near fatal heart attack, you got to be kidding me. So it tells you that these programs work.
Well, and Doc, though I didn't come back from a championship like that, I will tell you, when I started the bone rebuild, my only option was my immune system, my white blood count had dropped to like 1.4.
Oh my gosh.
And they told me, my next step was going to be hematology. And you and I spoke, and you told me, get on this bone rebuild because of what's going on in the bone marrow. Your body cannot produce. Doc, I'm going to just refresh your story. I know you talk to so many. But, and that's the part I love about just working with you is, you're available to consult with. So, I took that for about 9 months. By the 4th month, my number had gone up that my doctor over at the VA, she wouldn't even look at it. She said, oh, that's a false positive. There's no way. So I did. I paid for a private, I think it was LabQuest or whatever, but, I paid for that. And sure enough, she finally did at the 6th month look at my numbers, and they were back within the normal range. Now, what I missed from you though was, I thought, woohoo, I'm back to normal. So I throttled back a little bit, taking just the normal amount, not the actual rebuild. And about 9 months later, I call you up and I'm like, Doc, you said this was going to work. My numbers are going back down again. What gives? And I don't know if you remember this. You said, but you got them to produce, but now you have to do the rebuild of all that connective tissue, and I had bone spurs. I had, definitely was a hard tissue issue. Anyway, so, long story short, I did it a second time. And to date, my numbers have remained in the normal range. And, again, I didn't win any championships, but I got to tell you, I'm just trying to share, my thyroid story, my, bone story with so many others. And
you are a champion. You are a champion. We can't thank you enough for being a champion and sharing your story, because you have so much credibility. And when you tell your story, people, and I always tell them, you're going to get better. And the average person will begin to throttle back and start saying, well, I'm okay now. I don't need this anymore.
Well, I did that.
No, you don't want to do that. You want to make sure you're staying up there, because it's not that you need more than you ever needed. You just need it. Yeah. And you can't get it from your food anymore because you're not putting wood ashes in the garden anymore.
Right. Yeah. Well, at some point, before even knowing you, I remember looking up, the authors of this book, Dr. Boever and Dr. Wallach, and I started to search online, who are these folks and do they have any other books? Interesting.
You're talking about my book in the Smithsonian Institute.
Yes, Diseases of Exotic Animals, because that was the book that I began to see the correlations, of my symptoms and these other mammals. And at one point, let me just tell you, in one of my classes, the textbook was actually the rare earths, forbidden cures, and he covered all the subjects about the minerals. And so that was just another, place that you kind of snuck up into my life before. That was even before I was actually.
Well, minerals make up 2/3 of the essential nutrients. Out of the 90, 60 of them are minerals. And again, when you look back in history, in the Old Testament, it said, God said, a man's years shall be 120, because people were living to be 120 back then, because they're putting the wood ashes into their gardens as fertilizer, they're putting wood ashes into their food as a spice and getting minerals that way. But it wasn't everywhere. It was just certain areas, because nutritional minerals do not occur in a uniform blanket around the crust of the earth. They occur in veins like gold and silver.
Yeah, that's crazy. And who would have known? I again just love how, you've been able to put, and because of your various background and degrees, your perspective comes from several different views.
That's true.
And that's enabled you to see things that the average physician or even veterinarian, would have recognized or realized. What interests me is what kept driving you to dig further. And, I know what kept driving me, and that was my health challenges.
Well, I had health challenges.
Okay.
By the time I was 4 years old, I'm beating up adult men. Okay. And they got me in over a 5-year period. They brought me to 20 different doctors who were psychiatrists. They were pediatricians and pediatric psychiatrists. 20 different doctors couldn't figure out what I had. So when I'm 9 years old, they wanted me to go into a prison hospital because I was so violent. They wanted to put me in a prison hospital and do research on me. So I'm sitting on my bed on a Friday night, 9 years old. My parents are packing my clothes because on Monday they're going to take me to this prison hospital. And I'm thinking, why am I having all these problems? Nobody else are having these problems.
Right.
And so the next morning, I threw my Cheerios and my oatmeal and Wheaties, breakfast of champions, to the chickens. I took my cereal bowl to the barn, and I got the alfalfa pellets that are fortified with vitamins and minerals, not just alfalfa pellets, but alfalfa pellets that are fortified with vitamins and minerals that we gave to the calves. I put them in my cereal bowl. I put milk in them. I had them for breakfast on Saturday morning, Sunday morning, Monday morning. By 2:30 in the afternoon on Monday morning, I was cured. I cured myself in 2.5 days for something that 20 doctors couldn't cure me of in 5 years.
That's wonderful.
And so I knew when I was 9 years old that the medical system had some holes in it, and that I better get busy and help as many people as I could, because doctors were missing it by a million miles.
Well, and I'm going to, if I can share a quick story. Please. That was almost as fast. I had a client who had a prolapsed bladder, and it had gone on so long.
Now you're talking about urinary bladder.
Yeah, but the bladder had prolapsed now, and it was coming through.
Hanging out.
Yes.
It must be a female.
Yes, it was a female. Anyway, someone told her about me, thinking that maybe microcurrent could help there. And while microcurrent could provide some things, she couldn't even get to me for at least 10 days. And so I got her started on the Healthy Brain and Heart Pack. And per your suggestion, we did even some additional EFAs. And I don't remember the whole protocol right now, but she showed up at my office. It was about 10, maybe 11 days later. And she told us that around day 7, that the bladder had started to come up on the other side of the opening.
Wow
is right. And we'd never touched her yet. She was, anyway. So that was just another confirmation that, the impact that these products were having. And I've used, others, and maybe we can get into that, in a little bit, but, functional medicine, we get paraded all kinds of products, right?
Mhm.
And, at the time I was probably working with probably about 20 and using about 6 with some, real consistency, but never had I seen the changes, something like that with some of the other physician labeled, supplementations. They would say that it could help, but it would be 15 months. She said it was 7 days.
Wow.
Yeah. And of course she continued, but I'm still just blown away, by that story. And, I am not, people have asked me, I am not loyal to any one company. I'm loyal to me, my family, my clients, to those things that are bringing results. And again, there's too many companies to obviously keep up with, but to have whole food supplementation over synthetic, bar none, I haven't seen any. That's nutrition in action, period. When people say, oh, that stuff doesn't work, what is it, Doc? 95% of what's on the shelf is synthetic, right?
Yes.
And that matters.
And of course, again, in the beginning, when we started Youngevity, we spent 6 months before we started our first formulas getting information on long-lived cultures. We wrote a book called Immortality based on the 6-month study. Okay. And it wound up to be a 5-year study. Okay. And what we learned was that there were certain minerals that were in certain locations where there had been oceans, okay, and gulfs and all kinds of places with salt water, and they disappeared, but the minerals stayed there. Okay. And those people were the ones living the longest. And so we decided we were going to use our plant-derived colloidal minerals instead of just grinding up limestone and mud like everybody else was doing, and clay and stuff like that, and putting them in as minerals. And so that's why we're different. Okay. And it's one of those things where it's what can I say? The good Lord made everything perfect. And it's usually guys and gals that screw it up. And so, one of the things we have to
ouch.
One of the things we have to appreciate is if we follow the rules, we will gain 25 to 50 healthful years and longevity.
I believe
if we just keep playing around, and eat entirely every meal in fast food places and pop the tops on soft drinks and stuff like that, you're giving up 25 to 50 years of your life with your family and doing the things you love to do. You're giving up 25 to 50 years.
And so Doc, I'm of the opinion, God said, I ordained your birth and he ordained our death, but how we live that life in between, nobody can help us with our health challenges but us. How the choices that we make in between are what's going to matter. And we now know nobody can say, oh, I didn't know that wasn't good for me. Nobody can say we didn't know soda was harmful. We didn't know that, even to date, wheat or tons of carbs, fried foods, burnt meat. There's too much research out there. And if somebody's not listening, they got their head in the sand. They don't want to hear it. They want to do what they want to do. And I had a thought and it's escaped me.
Well, that's why certain people are always having problems.
Yeah.
Because they go off on their own thing instead of sitting down and saying, okay, what are the facts here?
Yeah.
What are the facts here?
Yeah.
And what do I need to do? And I have to congratulate you because, looking down the list of the things that you do and the things you deal with, you've been able to make an impact on the lives of so many people by giving them some pretty basic information. Okay. And it comes down to, do people get their car to run better if they just put dirt from Texas in the car because there's bound to be some oil in there?
No, it's got to be from California. We got the golden sunshine dirt.
Yeah, well, there you go. But
Right.
you do have to have all 90 essential nutrients. We've gone a little bit farther. We like the 215, which is what we have in the Healthy Brain and Heart Pack. The core is still the Healthy Start Pack. And then we have secret sauces. I have a table next to my desk. And I have this table. I've counted, I have 47 different bottles of some of our products. We have 5,000 products. So I have 47 bottles there. Now, in addition to the Healthy Brain and Heart Pack and the Rebound, which has 100 nutrients in it, Red Bull has 1 mineral, magnesium. We have 75 minerals. Now, 75 minerals are more than one. Now, my math is correct, I think.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And so it's one of those things where I've been doing this for these 75 years.
Yeah. Well, and Doc, the one thing I also see about your product line is dosages. In functional medicine, we learn about dosages. And, if the average person is only getting the recommended 400 milligrams of calcium, that's not enough. We know it factually that the body something like contains 1,200 plus milligrams.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're literally, and no one's thinking, okay, the RDA, that was recommended daily allowance. And it was initially recommended for the 17-year-old soldier going off to war. What's our minimum to keep this boy, just alive, not even thriving, but alive?
Yeah,
What's the minimums?
Let's go back to the beginning of that theory. Okay, that point. Remember, who was it that, what country got rid of scurvy?
Well, what country?
Mm-hmm.
I think it had to do with the Limeys, but I don't remember which one.
Yeah, the Limeys. It was the British. Yeah, because one of the owners of a small fleet, sea captain, he had a lime. You hit the nail on the head. He had a lime orchard in his yard, and so he gave some of these limes in a little bag to each of his captains, and he realized that none of his captains or sailors ever got scurvy. And so once he figured out it was something, he didn't know what it was, but there was something in the limes that were curing and preventing scurvy in his sailors. And he began to give these bags of limes to these other captains, and then their scurvy would disappear. And that's why the British were called limeys, because of this captain's limes.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. And so that's why they were called limeys, because he's giving these limes to everybody to get rid of scurvy. Now, nobody knew what was in the limes to do it, but they knew that limes could prevent and cure scurvy in days. Okay. It was like crazy. And so, and for, I don't know, hundreds of years, no, thousands of years, sailors were dying of scurvy. Mm-hmm. Because they get out in the ocean for a couple of weeks and they're eating all these fried foods and that sort of stuff and no vitamins and minerals, maybe getting a little sunshine, some vitamin D3, that's about it. And then they're all dying of scurvy. And once they started taking the limes with them and eating them, no more scurvy. Now, they didn't know why, but there was something in the limes that did it.
I love it. I love it. I love to hear the stories and, how they found the, figured out the root cause, or, much like you with, the 90 essentials, recognizing that if these nutrients were missing for even just a day, those little micro tiny fractures, or, they could be tears, it could be seen in the cells.
That's correct.
And then when given back, they began to repair themselves, that right there, I could just visualize that. And God said, from the ground I drew you, to the ground you will go. I believe at some point, every mineral in the ground is going to be necessary for life. Technology just hasn't figured that out yet, but we got 2/3 of it, so we'll take what we can, right?
And so, you and I and Rebecca have to do some things together. The three of us, we need to do some things together because a 75-year track, okay, there's 75 years of information in here. and all the diseases that we've messed with and done things with and so forth. Every family should have one of these books, okay? Because, you know, if Pat Boone says it, if Danny Glover says it, okay, if Andy Young says it, and Evander Holyfield says it, Theo Ratliff says it. Oh, and we actually have a female All-American basketball player, Kelly Herron from University of Tennessee. She came to me. She was a mess. I mean, every bone in her body was falling apart, and she was still playing for the university. And we got her on the Healthy Bone and Joint pack. And the next season, she came back and she became an All-American. And so,
and you have the King family and the Dollar family.
Yep.
You know, there are so many. We need to definitely get maybe some of today's names up for people to see, but there's an army of practitioners that are starting to move forward. And you know, again, I think the dosage that you are using is crucial for the rebuild. You know, and I'm just, yes.
You're a pain specialist.
Yes.
We live in a world that has a pain epidemic.
Yes.
How have you found the nutrition playing a part in the success and of your practice?
So I'll tell you, there's a part in medicine that we're not being taught, and that is the electrical part of the body. So I am using, you know, literally devices that NASA uses, that the Russians, the Germans, you know, they have perfected. We threw out electrical medicine, you know, way back when, and then it started coming back online somewhere between, I can't quite remember, the 70s and maybe the 80s. I think that the first step to pain is your mindset, and recognizing that the recovery starts with the choices that I make. So while working with Microcurrent, it's interesting, when I started working with this current company, wellness center that I'm at right now here in Sacramento, there are other microcurrent therapists there, and I brought in the nutrition. And the nurse stated, Yvonne, we're seeing 30, 40 or more times greater results than we were before. And a lot of that has to do with, think about this, the cells, you know, we have microcurrent in us. There's a microcurrent running through us. We are electrical. But many of us don't have those minerals, and the minerals are what cause the cells to communicate. So, you know, we tease, hey, we're going to take you from dial-up to high speed. And the very first thing that happens is we literally throw back some nutrition in their mouth, and, you know, as we're filling out the health history. And it's interesting because there's many times by the time we get back to the treatment room, they'll say, hey, you know, because we always ask, what's your pain level? Well, you know, when I walked in the door, I was 5, 6, 7, 8, but now it's, you know, it's feeling a little less. Do you think that stuff you just gave me? And I'm like, that's nutrition in action. You know, that's the minerals connecting. You know, I want to learn more, Doc, about amino acids, but that has solidified. And I was using other nutrition or electrolytes. A lot of people in electric medicine use electrolytes. Doc, how many of the minerals are considered electrolytes, and how much more than just electrolytes are there?
I'd say there's probably 15 that are being recognized. And of course, that's why we have the salt, okay? We have the seasoned salt from Australia and New Zealand. It has 28 minerals in it, okay? And of course, we also have the Himalayan mountain minerals, which kind of comes and goes depending on what's going on politically there and so forth. But it's one of the things we're one of the first things that a doctor will tell somebody that comes in with high blood pressure, you got to stop using salt. Well,
That's criminal. Somebody should go to jail.
Yeah, there you go. Those are my words.
Yes, I know.
Yeah, because
I'm in agreement.
Yeah, salt, and of course the first scientific article I wrote was there was a mass die-off. 500 died in one night. Okay, because of a lack of nutrients. Okay, because of contamination from neighboring farms and so forth. 500 sheep died in one night. They were healthy the day before, perfectly normal, and the temperature dropped a little bit, and they all died. 500 died in one night because their thyroids were all gone because they weren't getting the minerals that were necessary to make the thyroid happy, and they were getting nitrate fertilizer contamination of their drinking water. And when that temperature dropped to 16, they all died of hypothermia. Yeah. Okay, in one night. 500 healthy sheep.
Yeah.
Okay. And so salt is imperative. You know, in the old days, when somebody did something good, they were the what?
They were the salt of the earth.
Salt of the earth.
Mm-hmm.
Because everybody knew the first alternative therapy was sea salt.
Yeah.
They were selling it all around the world, and they were noticing that people that had goiter, you know, the size of grapefruit, you know, in their necks, when they used sea salt, within a couple of months, their goiter went away. So that was the first alternative treatment thousands of years ago, because people on the coast all over the world were boiling seawater and just taking salts around and selling the salt. But they couldn't separate the sodium chloride from all the other minerals in there. Okay. And they're selling that. And suddenly now all these people are getting rid of their goiters. And so everybody started taking the sea salt. That was the first recognized alternative treatment with a mineral.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, I you know, just to finish Rebecca's your question, microcurrent cannot replace missing tissue. We can get the electrical. So like for me, even though I was continuing the nutrition, there were still a few tweaks that need to be made. And that's where the electrical side can come in. You know, everything from moving skull plates to, you know, things that you're not seeing with nutrition. But again, microcurrent cannot replace nutrition, but it's the nutrition that does the rebuild. Yes, yes.
Now, have you done your electrical stuff on people that had osteoporosis of the skull?
Yes, and you know what? We can get that that sphenoid bone to shift. And Doc, I've seen some crazy things. And then we get them, but I tell them this pain brought you here, but get started on these nutrients so that we can rebuild what actually brought you in here. Yes, yes. To your question, sorry.
Well, that's good. The explanation is good. Thank you. We appreciate that. And it's one of those things where we see I counted 37 different diseases that people get when they have osteoporosis of the skull. And the electrical approach helps speed up the healing.
Exactly. It shortens the healing curve. So the two coupled together, Doc, I mean, I feel like, you know, I almost feel like I'm a little bit of a rock star around here, because
well, you are.
people in my town are kind of like, you know, man, what she's doing. And just the fact that I'm teaching them about the 90, you know, because you can keep coming back. I mean, I can get them well for a long time, but let's not have you come back to me for the same thing. You've got a hard tissue issue. I one of the things I do is I said, if you're even remotely interested in learning about minerals, look at the Institute of Holistic Health. Go check out what they're doing. I've got an affiliate link and you can get a big discount. And, you know, because I can't teach everybody, but I want them to know. I want them to know because, I mean, my entire family, their lives have changed for the better because of, you know, the information that you have made available. And then, of course, to put them in a product line, because, you know, even when I read your research, I went out looking for these nutrients. And again, there's so many, we can't keep up with all of them. But I also love that we learn about how you process, because that's important to me. Remember, I'm the one that said I read the VCR manual. I kind of drive my family nuts. It's like, I get something in my brain and I can't let go. I bet you're that way a little bit too, huh?
Absolutely. And of course, Rebecca has her favorite books. I think Rare Earths Forbidden Cures is one of them.
Absolutely.
Because you don't need a prescription from a doctor to get a hair analysis.
Yeah.
And it tells you how many minerals you have. And so that's very, very useful stuff that everybody should be getting a hair analysis once a month. No, once a year. Let's go for once a year.
So I use this book for looking up the hair analysis stuff so much. I have it marked.
Yeah.
Hair
And
analysis.
that was one of the books that was actually one of the textbooks in one of my classes.
I heard you say that. And I'm like, that's awesome.
Yes. Yes.
That's awesome. So my goal is to help get more of Dr. Wallach's books into the naturopathic and medical world so that they're getting information that's not just pulled out of the air, not just, oh, well, maybe this will work. But with Dr. Wallach's
it's peer reviewed. Everything, just start talking about the peer reviews that are happening. I mean, I just gave you 2 examples, the bone and the soft tissue. We just need to get that information out so that we have more eyes on it. In my opinion, we talk about the research, and then they're going to start like I did, just searching. There's a lot of product lines out there. I'd love to see more information be credited to all this research.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So let's get the research in with the teaching that's being brought by people like Dr. Wallach and not by the pharmaceutical companies.
Yes.
So Yvonne, I thank you so much for being here with us today. I met you through the Institute of Holistic Health, and I am so grateful for that. You have just been a rock star and showing people what can actually be done in your daily work using nutrition.
Yep.
I mean, even in the medical field, you're using alternative modalities that just really are enhanced whenever the body has what it needs in order to utilize and put to even greater action the services that you're providing.
Well, thank you. And thank you so much for just letting me be part of your world and Doc, what you guys are doing.
Well, we appreciate you and respect you, Yvonne. You're really, really a great warrior, and we love you for it.
Thank you so much.
And I just want to mention, Yvonne, you work with people of all ages. I know when you were here in San Diego visiting, and I took my son out and we hung out for a while, you were here with a basketball team.
Yes.
And using microcurrent for helping these kids overcome strains and injuries.
Yes. Yeah. And to get them back in the game, to keep them, on their peak performance. And of course, so many of them were enjoying the amino acids and the 100+ nutrients from the rebound. And, I've been teaching them about calcium because many of them come to me with shin splints. And so if I can just get them started on one thing and they see the results, because oftentimes there's a level of buy-in, right? Especially with the parents. But boy, when their shin splints go away, or when they see such, fast response from, let's say, the first 2 quarters, to the second 2, and the change, because I usually tell them, take your rebound at halftime. When you guys go back, when you come and they just have more power, more stamina, more focus in that second half. And I'm hearing about it, and I'm watching it too when I'm out there. So it's really fun to see.
And for those of you who are concerned about that, it is NSF approved.
Yes. Yes.
And if you are
it's just food. It's just food. If you can take food, you can take this. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, this is powerful, powerful food. Well, we are at the end of our show. I apologize, folks, for not getting to questions, but I think that the information that was shared here today is speaking to the masses in the power of what you can do, even if you're involved in the medical world as a practitioner, and bringing in this nutritional portion of the big picture. Because it's not, I'm sorry, docs, we're not chemical and pharmaceutical deficient. It's nutrition.
Nope. Yep.
It's nutrition.
And maybe a little electrical.
Well, yeah. I mean, because think about it, you're lacking nutrition, the electrical system doesn't work like it's supposed to.
Well, and exactly. And it actually goes both ways. If you are low on electrical voltage, what carries those fluids in the body? And what's in the fluid? It's nutrition and oxygen. Well, it is the electrical. They work hand in hand. The electrical carries the fluid, and the electrical can only go as fast or as much, depending upon the amount of fluid and nutrients and, that are in those fluids. We all know salt or water is a conductor to electrical. It's the same thing. Again, we actually have a microcurrent running in the body.
Electrolytes.
What's that?
Electrolytes.
Yeah, well, but I mean, if we stop our heart, doc, right, what happens? There's electrical going to every single organ and, big toe, little pinky, the whole span.
We are a whole being that it works really well or it really doesn't. So,
yes.
Well, everybody, thank you so much for joining us with Daily with Doc. Again, my name is Becca Dukes. Go to our website, dailywithdoc.com. There you will find the replays for our past episodes, our past programming that we have done as well. It's more than just Daily with Doc. I know Dr. Wallach, he has to kind of jet out of here and get to his next appointment. So Dr. Wallach, thank you again for another great day and for allowing us to interview Yvonne.
I say, Yvonne, thank you. Thank you, Becca.
You're welcome, Dr. Wallach. And for those of you, again, who are on live with us, thank you again. If we did not get to your questions, please go to dailywithdoc.com and use the contact us option, and one of our certified holistic health coaches will get back with you. If you have a question specifically for Dr. Wallach that is more advanced, possibly, you can email me, Becca, at dailywithdoc.com. And I'll make sure that your question gets right in front of Dr. Wallach as well. I just want to thank my co-hosts, Phyllis Anderson, Marilyn Pizzera, Ruth Ellen Sanchez, for helping me make this happen. There is so much that goes on behind the scenes. Ruth Ellen and I, we get on over an hour before, and sometimes we're working afterward. Well, it's not sometimes we're working afterwards. It is afterwards, and sometimes in the middle of the night, whenever somebody has a bright idea. But it is a group effort. It's a team effort, and there is room on our team for you. So if you have any type of skills that you want to bring to the table and have a passion for health and helping people, go to the website and reach out to us, dailywithdoc.com. Thank you again once more, Yvonne. You are amazing. I am privileged to be able to call you one of my friends, and I'm so glad that I have been able to experience your healing hands. So that fall down the stairs was not my friend. And the nutrition, I think, kept me from getting as much injury as I should have had. And then your extra touch has just brought me back. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Well, we'll give him
Everybody,
all praise and glory.
Amen. Amen. God bless you all. And until next time, bye for now.
Bye-bye.